Hi everyone, I'm going to be reading Chapter 12 of Gangsta Granny. Chapter 12, The Love Bomb. Ben had spent the whole of Sunday morning being measured up by Mum for his dance outfit. She had stayed up through the night sketching possible designs. Under duress, he was forced to choose one and pointed a limp finger at the one that he thought was the least hideous. Mum's hand-drawn options ranged all the way from the embarrassing to the humiliating. There was the woodland and the fruit cocktail, thunder and lightning, accident and emergency, ice and slice, the hedgerow and the badger, the quality street and the egg and bacon, confetti and underwater world, burning love and cheese and pickle, the solar system and piano man. But the one that Ben thought was the least worse was the love bomb. "We have to find you a nice young girl to partner with for the competition," said Mum, excitedly, as she accidentally ran one of her false nails under the sewing machine and exploded. Ben hadn't thought about the dance partners. Not only was he going to have to dance, he was going to have to dance with a girl, and not just any girl, but a revoltingly, precocious, sparkly, fake-tanned, leotard-wearing, over-made-up one. Ben was still at the age that he thought girls were as appealing as frog spawn. "Oh, I'm just going to dance on my own," he spluttered. "A solo piece!" exclaimed Mum. "How original!" "In fact, I can't stand here talking all day. I better go and practice," said Ben, as he disappeared upstairs into his room. He shut the door, turned on the radio, and climbed out of the window and raced over to Granny's bungalow on his bike. "So, you were running off into the woods when Lord Davenport started shooting at you," Ben said, eagerly prompting his Granny. But for the moment her mind looked blank. "Was I?" said Granny, looking increasingly befuddled. "That's where the story ended last night. You said you snatched the ring from the Davenport's bedroom and were running across the lawn when you heard shots." "Oh, yes," muttered Granny, her face silently illuminated. Ben smiled broadly. He suddenly remembered how he used to love his Granny telling stories when he was younger, transporting him to a magical world. A world where you paint pictures in your mind are more thrilling than the movies or TV shows or video games, more thrilling than all of them in the universe. Only a couple of weeks ago he'd pretended to be asleep to stop her telling him a bedtime story. Clearly he'd forgotten how thrilling stories could be. "I was running and running," continued Granny breathlessly, as if she was actually running, "and I heard a shot ring out, and then another, and I knew from the sound that it was definitely a shotgun rather than a rifle." "What's the difference?" asked Ben. "Well, rifle shoots one bullet and is more accurate, but a shotgun sprays hundreds of tiny deadly balls of lead. Any idiot can hit you if they fire a shotgun in your direction." "And did he?" said Ben. His smile faded now. He was genuinely worried. "Yes, but luckily I was far away then, so I was only grazed. I could hear the dogs barking too. They were hunting me, and I was only a small girl. If they caught me, the hounds would have ripped me to shreds." Ben gasped in horror. "So how did you get away?" he asked. "I took a chance. I could outrun the dogs to the forest. The fastest runner in the world couldn't. But I thought, well, I knew the woods really well. I used to play with them for hours with my brothers and sisters. I knew if I could just get across the stream, then the dogs would lose the scent. How come? Dogs don't follow a scent across water, and there was a great oak tree just on the other side of the stream. If I climbed that tree, I might be safe." Ben couldn't imagine his Granny climbing stairs, let alone a tree. She had lived in her bungalow ever since he could remember. "More shots rang out through the darkness as I ran towards the stream," she continued. and I stumbled in the gloom of the forest, and I tripped on a tree root and fell face first into the mud. Scrambling to my feet, I turned round to see an army of men on horseback, led by Lord Davenport. They were carrying flaming torches and holding shotguns. The whole forest was lit up with the fire from the torches, and I jumped into the stream. It was around this time of year and the depth of winter, and the water was icy. The cold shocked me, and I could barely breathe. I clapped my hands over my mouth to stifle a scream. I could hear the dogs getting nearer and nearer, barking and barking. There must have been dozens of them. I looked behind me, and I could see their sharp teeth gleaming in the moonlight. So I waded across the stream and started climbing a tree. My hands were muddy and my legs and feet were wet. I kept slipping down the tree trunk. I frantically rubbed my legs on my nightshirt and began to climb again. I scrambled to the very top of the tree and stayed there, as still as I could. I heard the dogs and the army of Davenport men follow the stream down to a different part of the forest. The dogs' ferocious barks became distant after a while. The torches were just specks in the distance. I was safe. I shivered up that tree for hours. I waited until dawn. I slid down the tree and I made my way back to the cottage. I crept into bed and I lay there for a few moments before the sun rose. Ben could picture everything she described perfectly in his mind. Granny had him utterly spellbound. "Did they come looking for you?" she asked. "Well, no one got a good enough look at me, so Davenport had his men search everywhere in the village. Every cottage was turned upside down. They were searching for the ring." "Didn't you say anything?" "I wanted to. I felt so guilty. But I knew if I owned up, I would be in deep trouble. Lord Davenport would have had me publicly flogged in the village square." "So, what did you do?" "I swallowed it." Ben couldn't believe his ears. "The ring, Granny! You swallowed the ring?" "I thought it was the best way to hide it. In my stomach. A few days later it came out when I went to the toilet." "That must have been painful," said Ben, his bum wincing at the thought. Passing a big diamond ring out of his bottom didn't seem in any way enjoyable. "It was painful. Excruciating, in fact," Granny grimaced. "The good thing was that our cottage had been searched already from top to bottom." "Not my bottom. The bottom of the cottage, I mean," Ben chuckled. "And Davenport's men had moved on to searching the next village. So one night I went off into the woods and I hid the ring. I placed it where no one would ever find it, under a rock in the stream." "Clever," said Ben. "But the ring was only the first of many, Ben. Stealing it had been the biggest thrill of my life. And as I lay in bed each night, all I dreamed about was stealing more and more diamonds." "That ring was just the beginning," continued Granny in a low whisper, staring deep into Ben's innocent young eyes, "of a lifetime of crime." That was the end of chapter 12. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.